The free thinkers, agnostic, atheist free thinkers, and some certain Christian scholars, there is a style of scholarship I embrace. I don't agree with their criticism. They deny the historical Christ and say Christianity is a ripoff from pagan mythology, and like these movies like Zeitgeist on the web try to show. But they're right in one thing. The heathen mysteries do have the gospel in there somewhere, and it's not by accident. And so I would disagree with all these Christians, like this Christian think tank websites and things like that, that try to say, well, you know, there's no correspondence. Baloney. Because the Bible clearly says that nature shows the gospel can be known of God. And I'll read that off in Romans. And so, you know, it's just ridiculous what they do. And there's different people like, there's Kesley Gray's World 16 Crucified Saviors. I'm not saying these scholarships are all perfect, but I think they have something there. Books like Gerald Massey, Egyptology, the Osiris Horus resurrection myth, I believe it relates to Christianity indirectly. And the resurrection of the dead are shown in Egyptian hieroglyphics. I believe there's something to that. I believe there's some people in ancient Egypt that actually understood the unity of the Godhead. Even the doctrine of the Trinity was known in ancient times, the three-in-one God, the dying, rising Savior. Very universal in the heathen mythos, and universal in a lot of the old writings, and not unique to the Bible at all. Abraham preserved that for the people of Israel and brought forth the nation of Israel and brought forth the Messiah and then bring it back to the world again. I don't know why these Christians believe that God just doesn't speak to people and doesn't care about them. You know, it's in the language structure, astronomy especially. Hieroglyphics, it's in the very structure of our language of the gospel is buried in there, and I believe that. I really, really believe that. And there's, you know, different writings, like Gerald Massey's Egypt Light of the World. You got a lot of different books talking about this. Bible Parallel on Other Religions by Doan, and there's some Christian books, you know, The Origin of Pagan Mythology by Faber. There's Hislop's Two Babylons, which shows how a lot of the paganism themes are similar to Christian, and a lot of the Roman Catholic Church degenerated the mysteries just like Mystery Babylon did. I believe the heathen mysteries are nothing but a degeneration of the mystery of the gospel that was shown from the beginning of time through Adam and Eve and Noah's children, and they degenerated. And Abraham had to preserve that, and then it came back again in Christianity. And you can say that has something to do with Melchizedek. I don't want to get into that right now. And Genesis 3 is the first Proto-Evangel, they call this, the first prophecy of the coming of the Messiah, which is agreed on most Christian scholars. I'm sure most Christian scholars agree on this, is shown in Genesis 3. So this shows that even before the Bible was written, they handed down this idea that Christ would come to redeem them. And it's Genesis 3:15. And I'll put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Jesus Christ, he treaded underfoot the serpent. He bruised his heel on the cross. It's a conflict between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. It's also shown in astronomy. You know, Hercules always treading something, either a hydra or a snake or a water monster or something, or a scorpion, like Hercules and Ophiuchus and Orion. You know, different shows this conflict between the monster. In the stars, in the zodiac as well. And these stories were, you know, were shown, and a lot of it turned into mythologies. This conflict was shown, the Proto-Evangel. And you think, what did Noah worship when he got out of the ark? You know, Paul Davies, a Celtic scholar, called it helioarchite theology, worshiping God, sometimes under the symbol of the sun, as the deity and things like that. They all worship God. Noah's 3 children populated the world. So for a while, before, you know, the perversions of Babylon and mystery religions and things, all the world believed in one God. So for a time when the world was spread out, there had to be traditions of the hope of the Messiah and the Savior. For Jesus Christ is called the desire of the nations, right? And a good example of that is the constellation Virgo. It's a virgin, and in her, it means virgin, and in her hand is a branch. And then Jesus Christ in Zechariah is called the coming branch. You know, Alzemach or something. Or then Spica means a promise. The deacon synecoma is Spica, the promised seed. Jesus is the promised seed. He's the branch. And it also means, coma means desire of the nations. And Jesus was the desire of the nations that would come. That's a whole different topic, and get into that. All right, there's a lot of these things that are hard to understand. And Apostle Peter talks about this. Let's start with 3:15. On account of the long-suffering of the Lord Saviour, even our beloved brother Paul, also according to wisdom given unto him, written unto you, and also in his epistle, speaking in them of things there which are hard to understand, which they that are unlearned, unstable rest, as they do also the Scriptures' own instruction. This also could be a reference to the revelation of nature. The heathens, they turn into many gods. They twist that revelation of nature into many gods and heathen mythology, and they refuse to acknowledge the Creator. And the Christians, a lot of so-called people that are ignorant, that don't realize nature's revelation of the gospel, say, oh, there's nothing to that. There's nothing there. It's like, shut your eyes to nature, what nature's showing you. So, you know, it's an interesting thing. Romans 1:18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven. That's interesting, because I believe a lot of it's by astronomy, allegory, it's shown, the gospel. The wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and revealed from heaven. So some revelation possibly in the heavens. Against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in righteousness. Hold the truth and in righteousness. Who's he talking about? He's talking about the heathen or the witches. They hold the truth. What? They hold the truth? Yeah, they hold it. They got it. They got the idea of the dying, rising God and the Trinity and Judgment Day. They got these ideas. But they hold in righteousness. How they hold in righteousness. And this is exactly what you find in heathen mythologies. Because that which may be known of God is manifested in them, for God has showed it unto them. God has showed it unto them. There's a revelation given to mankind. That's including the heathen. He showed it unto them. Look at this. For the visible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen. Visible things. In other words, just like the old Hermetic Egyptian maxim, as above, so below. Ooh, that sounds occultic. Well, this is what it's saying. Visible things from above are shown from things below. That's in the Bible. This is not black magic, folks. Let's try it again. As above, so below. Hermetic stain, right? Egyptian. Visible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. Visible things of heaven. Visible things. As above, so below. Being understood by the things that are made, even as eternal power and Godhead. So, even by looking at nature, and nature's correspondence and allegory, you could see even the Godhead. Not just creation science and intricate design and intelligent design, which is seen as well. This kind of scholarship, there's, people try to play it down and stuff, but I believe there's something to it. The Christians need to get on the ball on this and get a balance. They should rejoice that God's been showing something to the heathens that matches the Bible. How come all these atheists and freethinkers, they see something, they can see the gospel and the heathen mysteries, and the Christians, duh, oh, it ain't there, it better not be. Why not? That's for us. Why we need to be afraid of it? It better be. If God's a God, He's speaking, He can do what He wants. If He wants to play out nature's allegory as a script, the gospel, that's His business. It sounds like foolishness, but that's the foolishness of the cross. No. Things that are made, even understood by things that are made, even as eternal power in God, yet they are without excuse. In other words, there's such a revelation given by nature and is revealed in the heart of man, they're without excuse. A lot of these Christians think, oh, these heathen are in the dark, and the pagans never had any iota of the Trinity or the dying, rising God or anything of the things of God. They're just but dumb, stupid heathen. Well, not necessarily so. Paul totally disagrees. It's without excuse. There's such a revelation by nature, and it's shown. And if you look at, at the heathen mythology, they took this revelation. Now, here. Let's look. I'm reading the Bible. I remember talking about somebody go, keep on the Bible, brother. Well, I'm talking the Bible right here. They which they knew God, they glorified Him not as God. They knew who God was. Who's this? The heathen. Neither they were thankful. They weren't thankful. But became vain in their imagination. Their foolish heart was darkened. So they refused the revelation of God through nature. It was revealed within them. And they refused, and their heart became darkened. What did they do? Profess themselves to become wise and became fools. They thought they were smart by doing this, making these inventions up. Now, it's interesting. The word which, they claim, claims from the word wise one, craft of the wise. Professed themselves to be wise, became fools. They professed themselves to be witches. Okay, they became fools. So actually, we're the true wise ones. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And Daniel says, "Will shine like the brightness of the firmament, those that are wise and understand, like the stars in the heaven." So which is which here? They're not witches are not wise at all. They're fools. They changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into the image made on the corruptible man. That's exactly what you find in heathen mythology. Oh, come on, brother. You mean to tell me these vegetation fertility gods and sun gods and mythologies and different creatures and animals, they don't have nothing at all to do with the gospel, nothing to do with the revelation of God. Bunch of heathen pagan stuff. You're going to mix that in my Christianity? Keep it pure. Well, that's not what it says. It says they changed the glory of God into a corruptible man, birds and beasts, fur-footed beasts, and creeping things. So they took this revelation that was given by God and they turned it into a lie. And they made it different. They didn't give thanks to God for this, and they twisted it. The devil likes to play Twister, like Chubby Checker, the Twister, right? The song Twister, like the game. Well, that's the devil's favorite game. Wherefore God also gave them up to the uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, dishonor their own bodies, feed themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie. See? They knew the truth of God. They turned the truth of God, what truth? The revelation of God through nature, specifically, we're talking here, and worshipped and served the creature more than the creators, blessed forever, amen. Okay, there we go. And for this cause God gave them up to vile affections, even their women to change their natural use against nature. Likewise also the men leaving the natural use of the women, burning their lust one toward another, and working that which is unseemly, receiving themselves recompense of the error that was met. You have an improper view of nature, because even fertility shows the gospel. The opposite sex, man and woman, show the gospel and divine union to a sense. So if you're off on that, you're going to end up with a deviant sexual behavior. Okay? And you're going to be worshiping nature. Instead of seeing God, In nature, they worship nature and made nature gods. It's exactly what you find in this heathen mythologies. That's why you find correspondence with these dying rising sun gods and fertility gods. And Paul said it would be.